Hey, welcome into DomTime. It's a very special DomTime tonight. We'll tell you the title of the book, but maybe it's a second chance, even though the book says you only rock once. Second chance because it's out in paperback now. If you forgot, and for some reason you were not one of the 20,000 plus who got the hardcover copy of the, you can't even call it a biography, it's the story of Philadelphia, of this area, and national figures. Our guest tonight, the one and only Jerry Blavitt. Jerry, thanks for joining us in studio. And
Dominic, it's always a pleasure.
we've done many things together on radio and sometimes Feast of Seven Fishes, which
there were only 4 fishes. They ran out, and there was another 2 that came in.
Exactly. Now, I read an obituary today of Cozy Morley, and I happen to be summering in North Wildwood. There's a bronze statue of him there.
Club Avalon.
Yeah, Club Avalon. And you said something very appropriate about it, I think, when I was getting ready to talk with you. Out of all the fabulous tangents we can take, the essence of what you do as an entertainer is it's good, clean stuff that brings smiles to people, happiness to people. That's what Morley's about.
Well,
go ahead.
You know, let me tell you, the days of Cozy Morley, Mickey Shaughnessy,
Right.
Joey Bishop, these were the days when comedians, you could bring your family to see the show. Cozy was the last of that. Cozy passed away, he was 87 years of age. At Club Avalon, and he got to start with a guy called Mickey Shaughnessy at a place called the Erie Social Club. Do you remember the Erie Social Club?
Kensington, right? Or Port Richmond, one of those. Yeah,
See,
exactly.
back in the day, when Philly was, and it's in my book about what I did with Rickles, when Philly was dry, everybody would go to Jersey. But then the social clubs became the thing. Erie Social Club would be open to 4 o'clock in the morning. So whoever worked the celebrity room or worked Scioli's to make extra money, they would work there on a Sunday. So that's how it all began for guys like Cozy Morley. And then when he went into the Club Avalon, which was Mickey Shaughnessy's club originally, he was not only a comedian, he sang, he danced a little bit, and he told great jokes, family jokes. That era is gone today.
Well, that's what you see yourself too, the complete entertainer. And now I think you're almost the stereotypical, legendary host of a radio show. I mean, you've been in movies, whatever. I mean, I've read a lot about you, Jerry, and that people come there and they try to model you. If they're going to play a disc jockey or whatever term we'd use, they come and study you, but it's much beyond that. It's an audience, not a radio show.
I come from an old school. I began, as the book would tell you, at 13 years of age, and I was fortunate enough to get on a show called Bandstand. Bob Horn was the host at that time. I won a couple of jitterbug contests, and because of that, I became the head of the dance committee, and the head of the committee, I would have to get there a half an hour before the show would go on. You know the way TV works. And whatever guest was coming in, I would have to take care of the guest. So it was my responsibility with guys like Tony Bennett, Perry Como, the Ames brothers, for me to say, okay, now the show's on. When Bob Horn says, we have company, that's your spot, that's where you stay. So I was in awe of these wonderful, classy show business people. And I came from a broken family. My father was a somewhat Jewish racketeer, the number business, the loan shark business back in those days, bookmaking. So Bob Horn became a second father to me. So I stayed with his in Levittown where they lived with Ann and his kids. And the great story about Sammy Davis, how we became lifelong friends. As the head of the committee, I'm jitterbugging, and this little black fella is one of the guests. So I get off the dance floor, off the set, and I go to this little black fella and I say, all right, now, Bob Horn says, we have company, that's where you go. He looked at me and said, man, where did you learn to dance like that? I said, hey, man, everybody from South Philadelphia dances like that. He says, wow. He says, you're like the little white me. I said, no, man. It was Sammy Davis Jr. And we became lifelong friends. And you'll read when Sammy died that I zipped him in the bag. May the 16th, 1990. He had throat cancer. And it's the same time that I had discovered that I had melanoma. I was having dinner with George Burns and Victor Potamkin. You remember Victor Potamkin?
Well, I'm working on George Burns here. We're trying to keep all these.
And we're having dinner at the 21 Club. And I'm having dinner with Norman Orentreck, famous dermatologist. Frank's dermatologist, Elizabeth Taylor's dermatologist.
By the way, for viewers, when you say Frank, there's only one Frank. We'll move on.
Yes. It's
exactly.
So I got to get a Metroliner back. It was August the 15th, and if you're Catholic, you know that's the Feast of the Assumption.
Right.
So I had a suit and tie on. but I had to get back to Philly. So I'm blind. It's God. I wear my glasses, so I don't have my glasses on. So the watch is on this wrist. So I take the watch off to look because I got to take the Metro line at. Norm's over here. He says, "Let me see that." So I give him my watch. He says, "No. How long have you had that?"
Right.
I said, "Well, it's a mole. I got them all over my body." You know?
Right.
He says, "I want you in my office tomorrow morning at 7. I said, I'm going back to Philadelphia, man. I got to do a radio show tomorrow. George Burns says, "Potts, I've been trying to see this guy for the last 6 months." Victor Potamkin says, "George, at your age, you don't have to worry about seeing
There
the
you go.
doctor."
Exactly. Was he closing in on 100 then? Or yeah, exactly.
As a matter of fact, he was 96 years old.
Who's the person out of everybody that you met that you want to tell viewers tonight that's just the most fabulous experience you have out of all these people? Is it Sinatra? I mean, it doesn't get much.
I got to tell you.
Can't say, huh?
I can tell you. I met Frank through Don Rickles.
Right.
I was Don Rickles' valet when he worked the
It's got to be a
celebrity.
tough job.
He was scared. I'm going back 1957. He was brand new. And he just made a picture called Run Silent, Run Deep.
Right.
With Clark Gable. Okay, if you remember that
And
book.
Don Rickles?
Don Rickles.
Who does Rickles play in that?
But he played one of the seamen, okay?
Okay.
Burt Lancaster was in it, you know? So, as I said, I would drive him from the celebrity room to the Erie Social.
Right.
He didn't know how to dress. I was always a spiffy dresser, you know?
Right.
We became dear friends. So when the movie hit, Frank was at the 500 Club in Atlantic City. His movie was being shown on the boardwalk, the premiere of Run Silent, Run Deep. Okay? Frank's movie was Hole in the Head. Okay? But Frank was in Atlantic City at the 500. So Rickles calls me up. He says, "Hockey Puck, come on. I'm going to be in Atlantic City," okay? This is before he went to the Slate Brothers in L.A. and
Right.
before Frank flipped over him. He says, "Look, Sinatra's at the 500. This is in the afternoon." He says, "I'm going to go over and say hello to him. Come on with me." So he took me, Nat Sigel, who was also his booking agent, into the 5. This is in the afternoon. They're drinking.
Right.
Sinatra comes out, and Don says, "Mr. Sinatra, I want you to meet this kid, my valet, Jerry Blavitt." Frank looked at me and said, "Nice to meet you, Matchstick." I said, "Nice to meet you." As we leave, an hour later, Don says to me, "You weren't impressed you met Frank Sinatra?" I said, "If it would have been Fats Domino or Chuck Berry
There you go.
or Little Richard, man."
All right, we got more with Jerry Blavitt, and don't forget the book, You Only Rock Once. That's coming up here on DomTime.